Tom, aka Zebulon here for Star Frontiers Gamer. And this is just a housekeeping type of intro where I'm letting you know what's going on, that I'm just moving my What's Right with Zebulon's Guide video from the Tabletop Taproom over to Star Frontiers Gamer. It really deserves to live over here with the rest of the Star Frontiers videos. So this is just a bit of a housekeeping, moving these videos over. But we're just going to move them over here so they can reside over here, because their spiritual home really is at the Star Frontiers Gamer. So thanks for watching ahead of time, and I will see you in the Frontier. Hello and welcome to Tabletop Taproom, and I'm Tom, aka Zebulon, your host. Today we're talking about Star Frontiers and what's right with Zebulon's Guide. So pull up a bar stool, order a refreshment, and get ready for some old school sci-fi goodness. Now, in our first video last week, we discussed Zebulon's Guide, but I wanted to hit what was wrong with it because again, I had there are several YouTubers out there, guys who I follow. I've hit like and subscribe and bell icon on them, and they thought Zebulon's Guide was great. And I kind of had to beg to differ, not to back the bus up on them. I want to stress that this is not me launching an attack on anyone. I like those guys, and I appreciated them doing a video on my favorite game. So good on them. But so we had the discussion of what was wrong, and we kind of tackled that. Now, this video is going to be what's right, and it'll be brief. It is what it is. But we're going to tackle what's right in Zebulon's Guide. So let's just jump right into it with the equipment. Now, number one in Zebulon's Guide, you got new equipment. And now, I camped here last time. I backed the bus up here, yes. But there's equipment on that equipment list that you can go right in there. There's the price. There's the weight. Write it down on your equipment list and use it. I'm all for that. That equipment's usable. I think it's great. It's not fiddly. I don't have to calculate anything. I don't have to figure anything out. It's not a little column A, a little column B, some column C. It's none of that. It's just, there it is. All right, I want that. Write it down. I've added it to my equipment list. Simple. So any of that's great. I mean, because we all love new equipment. Like I said in the last video, we all like being James Bond, going to Q. We like the gadgets. Anybody play the James Bond RPG? I always wanted to, didn't, but I just loved the Q catalog with all the gadgets in it. I mean, that was just awesome, right? So, yes, new equipment. New equipment's awesome. I write new equipment and put it in the fan magazine. So, yeah, we want more new equipment. We just don't want the fiddliness. Now, so that's great. But, now, I criticize this. Now, let me pull this document out. I criticized the fiddliness of the mine kits and the rockets and the body comps and how it was all just fractured and fiddly and stupid. Well, it's of value. And where it should be of value is to steal a page from the old AD&D Dungeon Master's Guide. Because in the back of the Dungeon Master's Guide, there's all these appendix. There's all these appendix for just crazy stuff. Like here I am, appendix. These are tricks and traps. Appendix G, traps. Appendix H, tricks. I mean, there's an appendix in here. I was running a basic D&D game, and I needed a demon. And basic D&D doesn't have any demons in the monster. And the BX doesn't have any demons in the monster manual. And it was a basic game, but I needed a demon. I needed a low-level one, not too powerful. I needed him for the game. So I went right here, went to the appendix on where you just randomly roll up a demon. Gives you, what they look like. And I diced him out. I came up with a good one. I changed a few of the dice rolls for things that I could see on the table that I thought would work better. and I created this demon, named him Rikus. He's great. He worked well in that campaign, worked well in that game. I worked out some lower level stats. He's kind of a minor demon from the Abyss. And it was fantastic. I mean, these appendixes, you never use them much, but when you did use them and they were useful, they're fantastic. So, I still keep this around. I still pull it off the shelf sometimes and use it. And that fiddly crap in Zeb's Guide should have been an appendix in Zeb's Guide, but at the back. Should have been appendix that's there for the game master. Because how you would use it is you've got a game that's been going and the players got some power creep going on. They've earned a lot of experience. They've bought some skills. They've gotten higher in level. They've earned some money. They've got better equipment. They've bought some high-end equipment. They've got a starship now. So you get this whole power creep going on, and it's getting a little bit of a challenge to challenge the players. So you then go into that fiddly, stupid rocket stuff and work out some kind of a weird something they're not going to expect with that rocket. Maybe it's going to be a rocket that's going to have Tangler grenade warheads in it. So you'll put the 3 boosters in the rocket and get 3 Tangler grenade warheads in it. Work out all the stats on it. Work out the price, the weight, and go and have the NPCs using this against the player characters. That's a nice wrinkle, and it might throw them for a loop unless they've already bought that Tangler vest there, the detangler vest that was in the Star Frontiersman way back. So it could create, using that stuff could create a speed bump that stops the players from just steamrolling your NPC opposition that you've set up for the adventure. But these mine kits, these build your own rocket from Zeb's Guide, this stuff should have been an appendix at the back of the book for the busy game, for the game master who needs something. We're going to go there, we're going to pull something out of thin air and throw a new wrinkle at the player characters. And that's where that material would have been great. So I don't advocate for throwing it away. I don't use it regularly, but it has a value. So it should have been in the appendix if Zebulon's Guide had an appendix. Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Gary, for the appendixes in here, because never used them much, but when you did use them, you loved them. So that's the with the equipment. There's some good stuff there. There's stuff I use. The setting. Now let me pull this up over here. And again, I pulled this up in the last video, the Astrographics catalog. So the Alpha Dawn game had most of this information, but it did not have the satellite column here, which listed this. It's not the satellites. I'm sure there's numerous satellites. This is actually, when they say satellites here, they mean space stations, major space stations. There might be a little tiny research station. It's got like 7 rooms that player characters are going to go board and explore, do a boarding action on, maybe something's going on there. Who knows? But these are major space stations listed here, and so this is handy. This is absolutely handy. I consult this page from Zeb's Guide before I ever consult the page from Alpha Dawn, because it's just so much more information here. Not only do we have names of moons now included, the Alpha Dawn book did not include the names of moons. We now have the names of the moons. We have how they're used. Now, some of them they're not used. It says none. But this one here, it's an A code. That's agriculture. So they're growing stuff on this moon, probably shipping it to the planet to feed the population on the planet. Down here, we got a bunch of R's. Here. So that's resource, most likely mining. Doesn't necessarily have to be mining. You could creatively come up with something else. And then M for military, E for education. This might be like research labs. So much more information on this list. And I did a rough mathematical computation. They've expanded the explorable setting just through expanding the table by 25%. There are new stars, new moons. There's 2 pages of this. A second page. Yeah, there's a second page. And then there's this line across this page, and everything under here is the rim. That's a whole new section of space that they added on the map. So there's new stars up in the regular setting, new colonies up there, and then there's this whole other sector. Doesn't necessarily follow the Federation law. A whole place to visit, new places to explore, new places for adventure. So I totally endorse that. At 25% more setting to explore, absolutely. Who doesn't like that? Absolutely awesome. Now the section on MegaCorps. Let me just back out of here. And so the section on MegaCorps. Section on MegaCorps actually is a bit of an expansion of what was included in Nighthawks. Nighthawks gave us some information on some of the MegaCorps. All we had in Alpha Dawn was that the first and biggest MegaCorp was Pan-Galactic Corporation, was the company. And Nighthawks gave us some more MegaCorps, so it was kind of cool. And then you had an article in Dragon Magazine on the mighty MegaCorps, and it had like information on how a MegaCorp, corporate war would progress. And so it had this acrostic, Ice Wars, and it had all these stages of a corporate war, how it goes. So it was great. I thought it was fantastic material, but the problem was it was in Dragon Magazine. And back in the day, my lawnmower and my snow shoveling money went for arcade games and RPGs and going to the movies. And so sometimes I missed the Dragon Magazine and didn't get it. If you missed the magazine, you didn't get it. You didn't have it back then because there's no internet. You didn't go on the internet and Google for the PDF of that Dragon Magazine. It wasn't there to be found. Now you can do that. But so they took that article that was in Dragon, and I believe I actually may have had it, and they put it in here. They put that information in here. So it made it more readily available. Then there was another article on terrorists, spies, and patriots, and it was about the cadres and the cults, those kinds of organizations within the setting. So, like, for instance, the Silver Death Cult. They hate robots. Silver Death Cult. Death to robots. So they hate robots. So here's this cult. They call it a cult. It's more of a philosophical thing, not really a religious thing. But they hate robots, and they want robots done away with. They create a problem within the setting. They become an antagonist. And you might have a random Silver Death Cult member happens to see the player character's robot and decides to blow it away. Set the laser to 10. Done. Robot's destroyed. Well, the player's going to have a problem with that, and they're going to have a problem with that NPC. So these cults, they were in the Dragon Magazine, but they dumped them into Zeb's, made it more readily available, all together one spot. I'm all for that. I was all for that because a Dragon Magazine, it's only on the shelf for 30 days. It's there for that month. You either bought it or you didn't. You had it or not. So being able to get this document with really good information that expanded the setting, gave you options for adventure, gave you options for antagonists within the setting, absolutely fantastic. So that's in here. That's good. That's absolutely good for the setting. The timeline. Although the timeline is problematic, and I totally backed the bus up on this last time. Illogical, there's stupid things in the timeline. There's just, the whole play-by-play of the Second Southar War is just, it was unnecessary. Because I'll take Nighthawks, and we will play the campaign game, and we will play the Second Southar War. We don't need the play-by-play in the timeline. Much fewer entries would have worked. There are gems. There are little gems, little nuggets in the timeline that you find it, and you go, oh, hey, look at that right there. Like, for instance, the MSO, the Medical Services Organization that found the vaccine for the Blue Plague. That's in the timeline. Well, I took that entry and I created a whole adventure. And the player characters are a medical services organization team stationed at a clinic on New Pale. I created this for publication, and it got delayed because of actually COVID, of all things. I had a guy who was doing some maps for me, doing a map of the clinic, and real life started happening for him, started happening for me, COVID. So this thing's been totally just derailed, and it's not seen the light of day. And it was meant to be published under the Star Frontiersman Presents name as a free to download adventure module, and it all came from just one little nugget in the timeline that I say, what about in a medical adventure? And did a major setting, right up on New Pale in the Truane star system, and came right out of that timeline. I played in a game that was the game master took the Mechnon Uprising, and he'd been watching an old movie called 55 Days to Pay King. Charlton Heston, I believe, was in that movie. And he ripped off the script from 55 Days to Pay King and the Boxer Rebellion, and he made it the Mechnon Uprising. And I played in that game. Great fun. Loved it. And when I found out it was the script from 55 Days to Pay King, I was like, oh, even better. I like those old movies. So, yeah, these little nuggets in the timeline sometimes will inspire you to write a whole adventure. I'm all for that. I mean, the timeline, there are problems with it. I hate that. I hate the early timeline. I hate the whole Second Southar War entries. It's just it was not necessary. But sometimes you find a little nugget in there, and you end up writing whole adventures and whole campaigns from it. That's a good thing. To me, that's not a problem. I'm okay with that. Now, I have a friend, and he's going to jump on me for saying that there are gems in the timeline. So let me just restate it as there are things in the timeline that don't quite smell like poo. And these are the things that you grab and you'll use. The gems. Sorry. I'm going to hear it. I'm going to hear it from that guy, but it is what it is. But so, yeah, there's some stuff in the timeline. Zebulon's Guide ends up being a setting document, setting resource document, much like Steve Jackson Games back in the day, GURPS. He had the GURPS system of role play. He produced all these setting documents. If you want to play ancient Greece, there was a setting document for that. The GURPS put out. You could role play ancient Greece, and so with the GURPS system, there was a series of novels, the Uplift saga. I forget the titles from them. I read them so long ago. They were great. They were absolutely great. The Uplift trilogy, Uplift saga. Steve Jackson, he produced the setting document for playing in that setting. When I found that out, I thought that's fantastic. I don't play GURPS, but this is fantastic. I think I probably, bought or downloaded a copy of it, a PDF copy, and have it somewhere in the computer files somewhere, just because I like that series of novels so much. But so Steve Jackson, he setting documents all the time. He was producing those. Fantastic stuff. Zebulon's Guide shines as a setting document. Here's your setting document. It expands your setting. It gives you stuff to use. It fails in its promise of being a new second edition of the game, but as a setting document, it's not that bad. I like it. I use it. So, yeah, you can't play Star Frontiers without the original. You see it over this shoulder here. That's Nighthawks. This one, it's not a standalone. You got to keep Nighthawks. You got to keep Alphadon to play it. But this is a handy setting document. I end up using it. So recently, in one of my games, one of my players said, let me read this quote. It's great when a good scrap we can use falls from the Zeb's Guide table. I knew what he meant because I actually was doing some deep cuts into the Star Frontiers setting and history and pulling stuff out. And it kind of came out in the game, and they were like, "Man, you made some deep cuts there." And so he made that comment. And this is how I use Zebulon's Guide. I use it for the scraps. There are scraps in there, and I use them. And why not? A good scrap, you take a good scrap and you make a whole adventure from it, and you have fun. There you go. So what's your opinion on Zebulon's Guide? Post your opinion below. Hit that like and that subscribe button and the bell icon. Let you know when we produce another video and put it up, because we got more in the works. This is Tom from Tabletop Taproom signing out. Thank you for watching my video.